Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's ubnradio.com.
And greetings and salutations, everyone. You've tuned into Dr. Judy WTF, which is What the Freud. I'm your host, Walt Lusk, and we, of course, have Dr. Judy, very busy Dr. Judy Rosenberg in the house. And we are a call-in show here on UBN Radio Network, and we'd love to hear you have you call in. Today, we are doing a by request, actually. It's been a while. We've been illuminating this one. It is Dating After 50. And Judy and I will not disclose whether or not we are or aren't, but we have a lot of experience in this regard.
We won't disclose whether or not we're over 50.
That's correct. That's what I am implying, yes. Whether we are or aren't over 50.
Exactly.
But we do have experience in dating. So call in if you'd like to at area code 323-843-2826. And we're going to deal with all aspects of dating. And yes, we are going there. So stay tuned, and then we're going to have a song when we shrink, as we normally do. It's a very interesting song and quite apropos. And again, it's by request. Mm-hmm. So if you have a dating experience, and I know everybody does, I've even got just a couple.
Just a couple, Ron?
Just a couple.
Okay.
Give us a shout. Because one of my favorite lines from the movie Notting Hill was when Julia Roberts said to Hugh Grant toward the end of the movie, and I know I told you this one is, "Don't forget, I'm just a little girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love her."
And that's ageless.
That is absolutely ageless.
Right.
That was just one of the most, in my view, one of the classic lines of all. And then, of course, there's a book that Dr. Judy didn't write. Where
I didn't write?
No, this one you didn't write.
What a relief.
Women are from Venus and men really are from Mars. Of course, that was from John Gray from back in the day, which launched his career. But, dating in an older dating when we're older at this generation, my gosh, I got the silver hair to prove it, is really a whole lot more complicated. I have two daughters in her 20s, and my youngest is getting married later this year, and it's fun to watch and see that. It's fabulous, and he's a great guy. But, it's a lot less complicated, right? Am I going to make my house payment and my car payment and, have a job, all right? I mean, that's really it. But, when you start adding things like kids, grandkids, parents, a house payment, a job, retirement,
ex-husbands, ex-wives,
health,
right.
And lastly, exes.
Right.
So it's just a lot more intertwined and it gets a lot more complicated.
Absolutely.
Even though you'd think that if we're 50, we're a half a century old, we'd think that we'd have this whole thing figured out. And I'm here to tell you, as a lot of you know, and we'd love to hear from your experience, it is a different and a whole new ball game.
Absolutely.
And we're going to address all of that as well in the show.
Absolutely. So one of the things that many of you know, if you've been watching our show for a long time, is that I created a mind map for healing human disconnect. And I want to talk a little bit about why relationships don't work out, and from that perspective, why people later in their years are still single. I mean, there are many, many reasons, but let's just look basically at how relationships get tripped up and land us in a lot of chaos. So, Walt, when you have a moment, just
Sure.
Put up the panels.
Those of you that are listening,
famous panels.
Yep, those of you that are listening, you can tune us in on Dr. Judy WTF and the 9-panel mind map system. There you go.
Thank you very much. So here's what happens in relationships is just a general overview of the mind map. The top half is the past.
Top third.
The top third. Thank you. Okay. The middle third is the chaos of the now. And the bottom third is what we want to be morphing into. So if the first few years of our lives are not really that great. If we're too wounded in childhood, if we've got a lot of wounds that primarily have to do with physical abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, smothering, spoiling, or neglect, then what happens is that our psyche gets laid down in a way that is gonna be not it's going to be reactive to wounds of future triggers. And so as a result of reactions, what happens is that these reactions and wounds of childhood encode into the fiber of our being, and they encode into what we refer to in the therapeutic terms as negative core beliefs. I'm not this enough, I'm not that enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not capable, and so on and so forth. So here's what happens in relationships is, unfortunately, the wounds of you plus your partner or ex-partner get triggered up, and they merge together into reactions. Now I'm on panel 2.
Yeah, they do, because I have a friend who believes all the crap that her ex-husband told her.
Okay.
Which I told her was more about him than her, but she doesn't really think that's true, and she believes all this garbage.
Right,
and it just has a multiplier effect, and it's no fun.
That's exactly what happens. This whole thing gets multiplied and magnified, and so basically your wound plus your partner, ex-partner's wounds get together. They literally attract each other, and then there becomes this big reaction to it, and then it trips up each other's negative core beliefs and takes us for a little ride, which I call the WTF, or the what the Freud. And I call it that because Freud called it a repetition principle, and that's exactly what it is. So Harry trips up Sally's core belief that she's not lovable. Sally trips up Harry's core belief that he's not competent, and boom, 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 chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. And so because they're not necessarily conscious of this process, they keep blaming, shaming, judging, and name-calling, and all those good things. And at the end of that pretty little game, they detonate, they devastate, and
the question is, are they going to implode or explode?
But some people are imploders. What I mean by that is they get depressed, they keep all their feelings inside. Maybe some people go passive aggressive, and they
go run away and lock the door.
They can disconnect that way. Or other people are yellers and throwers and
Tossers,
are more aggressive. And so we have all kinds of ways in which we get detonated.
Fun stuff. And
real fun
and as
stuff.
we say, you know what, as part of the show, do not implode or explode, but call in and unload and get on the couch with Dr. Judy, even if you've got a really big emotional ouch.
And we love call-ins.
And the number is area code 323-843-2826.
And we want to hear your bad and good dating stories, and particularly if you're over 50.
I've got one.
Okay, go ahead.
This one's from a lady. You ladies, this is really interesting. She goes, look, giving up after a couple of bad dates. According to a survey conducted in England, the average woman will kiss 15 men, go on 7 dates, go on 4 disaster dates, and have 2 long-term relationships, and have their heart broken twice before they, you know what? We've got a call in.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Hello, hello.
Hey, thanks for calling. You're on the couch with Dr. Judy.
Oh, hi, y'all. Y'all are great. Y'all do such a great service for everybody, having these programs. I can't say enough about y'all. Y'all are just incredible. You're so informative, and
thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Where y'all calling from?
Montgomery, Alabama.
Alabama.
Beautiful.
All right. And your name?
Andrew. Hint.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much for calling in, and maybe share a little bit about your dating experience. I presume that you're over 50, because that's the topic of today, dating over 50. Yes, over 50?
Yes, 58.
Okay, 58.
Over 50.
You qualify. Okay. And again, thank you so much for your support and compliment.
Thank
really,
you.
really means a lot to us.
Absolutely, it does.
And so just tell us a little bit about what your experience
what's going
is,
on?
and if you can relate to the boom, 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 chaos, defenses, breakdowns, triggers from the past, and chipping off negative core beliefs and the whole mess of it all.
Well, I mean, I know that we all carry a lot of baggage from our past,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like going through a maze with our own issues and their issues, and it's tough. I mean, because I think everything does get more complicated as you're older. You physically, emotionally, you have been through so much. They've been through so much,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like you're looking for the best suitable person for you.
Mm-hmm.
And what gets to me is the time. I mean, I realize I'm closer to my end of my life, and I want to progress, and I think it rushes me into maybe relationships quicker than I want to be, but I just don't want to be alone, and I think that's
Yeah.
a part of my big problem.
And Andrew, you're bringing up a good point, which is
Absolutely.
who wants to die alone? And I remember a funny conversation I had many, many years ago. I was on a date, and I said to the guy, you better pick quickly because, before you get that stroke, before you get cancer, before your body starts failing you, because it obviously is harder to meet somebody when you're coming in with major issues. Obviously not impossible, but painful and challenging. And so nobody wants to die alone. And you've got a good point. People want to pick somebody just so that they don't feel alone in life, especially during our 50s, 60s, 70s, hopefully into our 80s and 90s. And so what are you finding that you're doing that maybe doesn't work for you as a result of this pressure to pick somebody already?
I guess I'm not meeting enough people. I need enough women. I need to circulate more.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of interest, and I think that's good. But I guess I wish there was. Sometimes I think it would be in our interest, men and women, for us to have sensitivity training toward knowing what's good for what's going on with women in their minds about being older, and what's going on in men's minds when they're older. If we could have a good discussion about that, and because one thing, women die later than men, and that plays into it, and also the fact that the women they have more support groups, but they're more involved with women groups.
That's absolutely
and men don't
true.
really have that.
Well, let
Absolutely,
me
it's true.
And men commit suicide because of breakups of relationships, statistically speaking.
You're right.
More so than women do, because they have that support.
Well, let me then ask you, because obviously as a male you're visual, and as a female I'm visual too. It's not that we're not visual, but at a certain point in life we've got to go for the qualities. We've got to go for the values of a human being. And so do you find that as you date in your older years that you're starting to reevaluate your criteria for dating, and maybe coming to terms with evaluating your own values to see if they match up with the person that you're potentially going to choose as a partner?
I think that's true, but I think it's been kind of a slow process. It's not. I still have I'm still attracted to beautiful women, but
Of course.
the personality is so important. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I want someone that I have something in common with, something I can share. I've dated women that are older and younger, and the last one was like 10 years younger, but it's not like the age made that so much difference. But sometimes it's like quality. I want someone that's more physically fit, that can kind of keep up with me, and that plays in kind of attractiveness, but it's not exactly attractiveness. I want someone that's active, because I've had issues with some women in the past that I could have been more selective with them, that they were not so physically, able to keep up with me.
And I think that there's a shared value, right? If you're active and you're physical, then obviously you don't want somebody that's going to lie around and watch TV
And
all
be a couch
day.
potato.
And that just doesn't match up. But I think that one point that you brought up is that women do outlive men. And do you notice, and maybe not you, but that men tend to want to date women younger than themselves? It's just a given. But then again, a woman who may be 2, 3, even 5, 7 or more years older may still be very beautiful, very vital, very successful, and maybe even a better match. And if that's the case, then the two will probably die around the same time, statistically speaking. So what do you think of that in a realistic way? Does that work for you to broaden your age range?
Say broaden your horizons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's just complicated. It's just it's hard, and I mean, it's tough.
It is, because we all have our deal breakers, okay? And you've got to be real with yourself. If you don't like women who are short, or women who are too tall, or women who are couch potatoes, you've got to be real and then say, look, I'm not going to choose from that pool, because the last thing people want to do, right, is to start dating a deal breaker. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in my practice. I've seen it break literally in my practice, where, wait, I didn't know you wanted children. Well, I do want children. Well, what are you guys doing together? This is never going to work. So Charles, I think that you've got the healthy attitude that you've got to really start fishing in a pond where the people fit your values, and really reevaluate what they are, and be very, very honest with yourself, so that you don't start picking a deal breaker. And
one thing they talk about is fishing in a different pond is, if you're active, go do things where you can meet people that are active. Like, for example, we've talked in the previous shows about Meetup, MEEETUP.com, where, and I'm sure you're in a city that at least has a few of them, or start one on your own. Maybe there's a hiking group you could start, or walking along the beach or whatever. And you're already involved in those?
Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
I ballroom dance too, and I meet
there you go.
I meet a lot of nice women. I do. I mean, but I live in a conservative Bible Belt part of the country, and
yes, you do.
And my background is not really. I'm not real religious, in all honesty, and that plays to it too, because I mean, I'm spiritual, but
not religious.
Play into things like finances. Sometimes I wonder how am I divide my money up with my kids and her kids, and when I die, my will,
right.
all that kind of thing.
Quite a
that
stew.
goes in my head too.
So what? I'm just curious. So, as a man, and knowing that there are all these women out there who do want to have a partner, what advice would you give women to be sensitive about when dating a man, so that they don't blow them away?
I'd say give them a good, decent amount of time to get to know them, and not overreact, and let them have a chance to let them know your background, at least a little bit, to give some perspective of who they are.
Okay.
Instead of just a gut reaction, because that can be wrong.
Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the things we talk about is one guy wrote an article about today in this fast world, we bypass the whole issue of courting.
That's for sure.
And women and men need to be courted, and you need to learn a little bit about each other and take your time. And it's a journey and a destination.
And also, when courting, men have to understand, and women too, that a first meet is not a date. It's just a meet. So don't bring flowers. Don't freak the woman out. No boxes of chocolate. You know, even if you're Southern and you're a gentleman, that's saved for when you're actually out on a date and you actually have a little bit of history where you both establish that you like each other.
And another thing is, do not interrogate, right? I mean, it's not a job interview.
Right. It's hard to get away from
It's
that.
really difficult, but
What
you know,
kind of car do you drive?
yeah. So tell me about your retirement plan. You know,
Right.
what I mean,
That's a good one, right off the bat.
you know, when did you want to retire? Are you retired? So,
And then
you know.
the correct response is, are you retarded?
Are you retarded? Yes, I'm very retarded. Thank you very much. Exactly.
So I just wanted to thank you, Charles, for Andrew for calling in, because a lot of women want to know, you know, how do I get it right? And I think from your perspective, the how do I get it right is don't jump to any conclusions. Get to know the human being before you start saying yay or nay. Give it a little bit of a chance.
And stay tuned, because we're going to address some of the questions you asked.
Yes.
I promise.
Yes.
So thanks so much
Thank
for
you,
listening,
Andrew.
and thanks for calling, Andrew.
Thank you so much. Well, y'all are fantastic.
Thank
I
you so
really
much.
appreciate
God
that.
bless.
Thank you. God bless.
Well, wow, there you go.
Yeah.
From a guy, there you go.
Yes,
So,
yes.
and what's interesting is statistically there are more women than men as time goes on, because guys die.
So here are some of the worst dating questions I've ever heard.
Oh, here we go. Okay,
I'm
fire
going
away.
to get into it. So, you know, this is like on the phone. So,
Oh, you haven't
do
even
mind
met
if
them yet.
You haven't even met
Oh,
them
my
yet,
goodness.
right? And they're asking things like, so what size bra do you wear? I love that question.
You know, my father was
I
a physician.
I love that question.
And he says after the age of 13, there are 3 questions you don't ask a woman
Right.
or a lady.
Which
One
is?
is her age, her weight, and her measurements.
And her measurements. Well, that gets violated all the time.
Yes, and it's funny. I had another friend
Right.
of mine who dated a lot of guys that were in the finance world, and they felt that if a woman's bra size wasn't a certain size, they weren't successful.
That they weren't successful.
They were not
You mean
successful.
the man wasn't successful?
No, the woman was not successful in their eyes, and they weren't interested in them if they had a certain size breast
Interesting.
on the smaller side,
Interesting.
which
figured as
I personally
much.
disagree with. But yeah, it's crazy.
So
you know.
just the questions. Be tactful. How
Absolutely.
about that to
Yeah.
start with?
You know, you can start, generally, for goodness sakes, like, movies, food. What was your favorite meal you ever had? If one of my favorites is, if you could have dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would that be? And
I think alive.
yeah, well, no, I mean, you could pick, some people go to politics, right? Or so they
right.
go my grandparents, or or just it's
Yeah.
interesting the response you get. It's kind of an interesting question. It's not doesn't require too much brain cells to do.
But see, in general, the same thing applies to people who are below 50, after 50.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter. And I have a website, actually. It's an old
You do?
website. It's called
Yeah.
GetDatingReady.com.
GetDatingReady.com.
And it's a really cool site because, just for those of you who don't know, I also have a license to cut hair. I'm a Paul Mitchell graduate, and at some point I wanted to put psychology together with the beauty industry, so I created Get Dating Ready. And you would be surprised to know how many people show up with bad breath, horrible hair, greasy hair, dirty fingernails, crinkled clothing,
I was gonna say,
ugly
yeah,
shoes, and bad skin. And, especially when we're older than 50, these things, it's sort of like you've got to really bank on your assets.
Yes,
and
you do.
So if you don't have the perkiness and the collagen and all that, at least you can have a beautiful haircut, or take care of your skin, or be healthy, or work out, or get your nails groomed.
Go buy some wardrobe, and you
Right.
only get one shot at a first impression.
Right.
I was on a date once, and I wear a lot of topsiders, and I guess I put my shoes on in the dark, and I'm halfway through the date, and we're walking down the street, and she looked down and says, "Do you always wear shoes that are a different color?" And I looked down and I went, "Oh my goodness." I said, "You know what? I do, because I have a pair like this, exactly like this at home."
Oh. Oh, that's great. That's great.
You know,
Yeah.
changing the way you think about love later in life is probably the best place to start. I've got a couple suggestions. A lot of people who are dating in their 50s probably haven't dated since they were in their 20s. They're paralyzed and they still have this old vision of themselves and the old vision of boys or girls that we're dating. You know what? This is the best time for anyone to date. The thing is, for example, first off, fall in love with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to love somebody else if you don't love yourself. Changes are a major event. So you want to do something that's improve yourself. So fall in love with yourself and do that. Second is get, as you mentioned, get past your list, right? Everybody has their eternal list, but you know what? Your perfect partner is about as hard to find as lassoing a unicorn. Really figure out what feelings and really go with what you feel and within a partnership.
I love that.
Okay,
Let's go
because that's
after, 'cause-
ultimately that's what
yeah,
it's all about.
When you close your eyes in that room and you hold hands with the person, what do you want to feel? And doesn't everyone want to feel safe? Doesn't everyone want to feel special? Doesn't everyone want to feel heard? Doesn't everyone
Cherished,
want to feel cherished and empathized with?
loved.
Yeah. And so I think many of you, and certainly I've been in a relationship where I haven't felt those feelings. And even though the man looked handsome or had other attributes, at the end of the day, something felt off. And trust those gut feelings. And by all means, don't forget that in order for you to be a lovable partner, you have to get past your own pain, let alone be able to empathize with somebody else. And what I mean by old pain is old breakups, old childhood wounds, and so on, because you don't want to be taking that into the next relationship and
Do you
then
mean
playing it all.
baggage, Dr. Judy?
That's, emotional baggage.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I'm fabulous. So what's your damn problem? There's still some me work to do. It's about getting past your limiting beliefs, right? It's about being intellectual with your beliefs and realizing they aren't true instead of being completely emotional. Because one talked about being distant, right? If you're distant, how are you going to connect with somebody?
You're not. Because if
gotta
you
be a
look
little
at panel
vulnerable.
number 7, which is my favorite panel, it's about interconnection. So one of the things that you want to look for is synergy. You want a synergistic relationship. So there are relationships that vampire you out, and you know what those feel like when you feel like you're being sucked dry, and at the end of the day you've got a headache and a backache, and you're a little short on money, and you've done all this for the other person, and the other person has given you very little in return. And I think most of us have experienced that one. Okay. And so, also that goes into the quality of cheapness. If somebody's cheap and they're emotionally cheap and they're cheap tippers, then do you want to be with somebody who's not going to be a giver to you? This is huge. This is part of that emotional goody feeling stuff that you want to pair with. So these are the kinds of things that we want to look for, especially in later life, because we want to get it right this time around. We don't want to play the WTF, what the Freud game. And so if you're not getting it right, then maybe a little therapy, maybe some honest, rigorous feedback would be in order. And you don't have to pound therapy down into the ground, but geez, if you're repeating cycles over and over again and find that your picker is broken and you keep picking the wrong people and the same cycles and getting nowhere fast, then maybe it's time just to stop, take a breath, heal a little bit, and then get back into the dating.
Because as a friend of mine put it, going into therapy is the best investment you can ever make in yourself. And if you go 2 steps forward and 1 step back, you're still making progress. And you might make a lot faster progress if you invest in yourself.
Yes.
Casting a wider net. In other words, plan where and how you're going to meet folks. An example here is that a spider, if he's caught a fly, he doesn't just take down his net. He's not sure if that's going to be enough, and he's out doing more. No one said you had to, date a bunch at a time, but you know what, you want to make sure that, you know, you're out there, you know, get out of the house, you know, in addition to going online, you know, as our caller said, Andrew, he says, look, I'm making classes, I'm doing dancing, I'm
Yeah,
going hiking,
yeah.
I'm going to meetups. He's being very proactive. And I think that with a little more positive attitude and an air of expectation, I think, you know, someone may come up to him and say hi. Because men really don't want to chase women at this age. You know, they know what they want and they know how to get it, and they don't really want to work that hard. I mean, yeah, they want to have the chase, but they're not, you know, going to want to run down the street.
Tired is what you're saying.
Well, I'm just reading the article.
Okay.
So, you know, but if you show they're interested, you know, they love to help women. Not that you have to be helpless.
And that's another point, is that a lot of women in particular have become very independent
Yes,
at that stage
absolutely.
of the game. And so I think men still like to feel that they have something to contribute.
Yes.
So when a woman comes across as too unneedy, not that they should be needy and bleedy in that way, but I'm saying if there's nothing that they're saying that really they need, then I guess the guy's going to feel like there's nothing they have to give. So what I'm saying is, synergistically, there's something about you that somebody else needs, and there's something about the other person that you need. So look for that. It's not codependency when there's a sick, over needy business where two people just don't really flourish any longer because they're pulling at each other and vampiring each other. That's not what I'm talking about. So synergy is the 1 + 1 = 3 phenomenon. So it's you plus me is greater than the sum of its parts.
Absolutely.
And that's something that you really want to look for. It's definitely a quality that people don't really pay attention to, but pay attention to that one.
One is making time. Right? I mean, we're all busy between job and family and grandparents and, you know, the sandwich generation and whatnot. But I had one lady I was talking to. She only called me on her way to work and on her way from work. And I thought, okay, she's sitting in her car driving and I'm her entertainment. And it's like, well, it's great, but, you know, they didn't have time to get together. And it's like, you know what? Why bother? I said,
She never wanted a date?
Never wanted to meet. She just wanted a companion to entertain her while she was driving to and from work. And I just went, you know, I'm done. You know, go find some other person to bug on the phone. It was crazy, you know. But you have to remember, you have to have some we time. You got to make sure that you make time for the relationship, because if they feel like they're not really second fiddle, but you don't have enough time for them, it's not going to work.
Right, and I know there's a lot of online dating. It's huge, and many people find their partners through online. And I think one great suggestion that I'd like to make is that if you do meet somebody, get together with them sooner than later. If they sound promising, do get together with them, because most women, they don't really like to be pen pals with anybody.
Right.
And I don't think men do either. It's
I certainly
just
don't.
like, look, you know, we like each other, voice sounds nice, we have something in common. Now we've got to see if there's some level of chemistry.
I would say that the C word.
You've got to have that.
There it
Factor
comes.
X. I've talked to rabbis, priests,
and
counselors.
here we have another caller.
Oh, really cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for calling. You're in the couch with Dr. Judy.
Hi.
And that was too quick. Okay. So moving on, there are a few myths.
Hopefully call back.
They may call back.
Yeah.
That prove that, you know, dating isn't working in this realm. First, you believe there is only one soulmate or a twin flame for you.
Yeah, that's a big one. So, you know, if there's only one, right, then you better pick that needle out from the haystack.
Yeah.
And sometimes people do. They meet each other, done. I have an aunt and uncle that knew each other from age 14 or 15. They've been together now for, I think they were in their late 80s, and they were each other's ones. How lucky, how blessed that is.
Absolutely.
It doesn't always happen that way.
No, because it's more important here, this article says, to fall in like. Because once the magic wears off after 6 to 18 months, so they claim, what's left is a life that you have built together.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so it's a fallacy that differences are going to hold you together. I mean, some differences where they're complementary are beautiful, but if you guys are just too different, then it may start to grate on you after a while, and it may not be so interesting anymore. And again, I'm going down to the core values. If your core values are really different, it's going to be very challenging.
Here's one. He or she will complete me. Hollywood fooled us once again. For example, Jerry Maguire, you complete me. The love of your life should complement you, not complete you. If you're missing something on your own life, then you're looking to have it fulfilled by somebody else. You're going to appear needy, and it's just not going to happen. It's better for each of you to come in a relationship your own interests and your own passions. These create a glow so appealing to the opposite sex. Of course, having common interests is important too for sustaining a relationship, but your individual passions is what keeps the relationship alive.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as we age, we're going to get body conscious, wrinkles and signs of aging process.
Yes.
And so it's always challenging, like, am I going to have to take my clothes off at this age?
It's
How
interesting.
about that?
You did hit the nail on the head. How about next one is only wanting to date beautiful people. Right? The media, again, has taught us to think that, the beautiful ones and the handsome ones are the ones that are really worth going after. But you know what? You look at Hollywood, that hottie that beautiful guy had this week, he might not be with her next week.
Yeah.
So, a relationship is about far more than beauty and the inner glow and wisdom and feeling good about who you are and who you're with than anything else.
And health is beautiful.
Yes, it is.
Right? So if you keep yourself healthy, if you eat well, and you're exercising and you're glowing and you've got that life force and the ability to love, that's very, very attractive. And we all know that we meet people and at first they look a certain way to us, and then when they become more familiar to us, we don't even really concentrate on what they look like. I mean, do you consider your cousin Betty cute, or your Uncle Sam handsome? I mean, I don't know. He's my uncle. I don't know. She's my friend. I don't know. It's that person's looks are then taken over by the glow of who they are.
Absolutely.
Right.
And the infamous song years and years ago by Captain and Tennille, young and beautiful, when all of that's gone, who still will be turning you on? I will. That's the
nice song.
Yeah, so it's Captain and Tennille.
Yeah.
And along those lines, looking for perfection. And last I checked, perfectionism is fatal. Casualty of divorce, you really don't want to fall again, so you start looking for that perfect person. You interview them for that position for your next serious relationship. You know what? How about just hanging out? I mean, that's how kids in their 20s do it. They just hang out and they figure out, hey, I like you, you like me, we seem to get along, and it kind of grows, right? As opposed to, coming in with a ton of baggage and a gob of expectations. So, but again, it's not easy.
Not easy, right. Do we have time for more callers?
We do. We've got about 5 minutes.
Oh, awesome.
Yep.
So if you want to pick up the
phone
phone right
is
now,
area code 323-843-2826. We might have to continue this next week.
Yeah, interesting topic.
And we did a show, one of our first the film WTFs was 50 Shades of Grey, and there's some article about Christian Grey. And that sex aspect.
The main character in 50 Shades of Grey. Go ahead. You have that article?
I do.
Okay.
What Christian Grey could teach us guys about sex. Let's start with anticipation. Okay? There's that deliciousness that comes before you get your hands on your lover. We're obviously talking about foreplay. Send him a sexy text in the middle of the afternoon. The hot request that she meet you in a bar wearing less than she did in the morning.
In the morning, that's pretty challenging.
I'm talking I'm intimating a certain part of that women wear, mostly panties. The tone of your voice. Looking forward to stripping her slowly.
With your eyes.
With your eyes.
Of course.
And building anticipation. Get her to simmer her desire for you. Second, let her know in her bones the object of your desire. Because again, women love attention, and desire is sometimes the orgasm.
And the most unattractive thing a man can do, in my humble opinion, is be out on a date and look at other women. Or talk
absolutely.
about, this is a big one. I've definitely experienced this one. they're going to talk all evening about their ex-wife
Oh,
or
absolutely.
their ex-girlfriend,
No.
and it's so
No,
boring. Just don't do it.
No.
Yeah.
Make sex an important part of your relationship. I mean, after all, Christian Grey had an entire room set up for that whole thing.
He sure did.
Yes, he did. So, you know what? Give her a gift certificate to buy some lingerie, or maybe some toys. Again, that builds anticipation.
Are you talking about Barbie and Ken dolls?
Could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They played with toys. Yes. And then lastly, as you mentioned, dress for success. Right. Women do this way more than guys do. Right. They sweat the small stuff, even the tiniest stuff. I mean, I know one guy who wrote, in here it says that he wore his superhero underwear and it made him feel really sexy. And women wear their superhero underwear too.
Sure they do. And there's superhero perfumes and
Yes.
the little details,
Yes.
the eye waxing, and just, all the little details, they count, because not only do they count because they make people look attractive. When you groom yourself and you take care of yourself, it makes you feel attractive. And so before you can, quote, sell yourself to another person, I don't mean that in a salesy kind of way, but before you can really feel that you could be appealing, you've got to appeal to yourself. And so if you don't, on some level, feel an attraction to yourself, it's going to be hard to exude that kind of level of energy to your partner.
And the best way to get a lot of brownie points, guys, is when you see a lady, compliment her on her outfit, on her looks, on her dress, on her shoes, on her earrings, because she's probably changed the earrings like 3 times and maybe gone through at least a couple pairs of shoes, let alone everything in between.
Right, to come meet you.
Yeah.
So don't forget that, and I think that men sometimes they have a hard time about maybe she should pay, or this is not fair, or it's equal opportunity. It's sort of like the equalizing. I did learn this from a relationship coach. And so what most men and women, most women like to be courted.
Well, chivalry
Okay.
is not dead.
It's not dead. So some women will get upset if a man opens the door for them, and they'll think, well, I'm not crippled, I can open the door for myself. But in general, and I'm saying in general, most women do like to be cherished, and most men do like to be respected.
Yes.
And
Very
so,
much so.
we give in our own way. So men give in their masculine way by cherishing their women, opening doors, paying for them, maybe most of the time. And women may give in their feminine way by making dinner for their guy, or giving their guy a massage, or surprising their man in other ways. And so let girls be girls and let boys be boys, and don't take that energy and dynamics away, because the most unsexy thing is when everything's so equalized. There's no flow. There's just no dynamics there. So there's got to be a little bit of that male-female dynamic.
There is, but you know what? It talks about guys learn how to cook. I
like
mean,
that. That's I think that's
there we go.
super sexy.
There we go.
Right.
You know what? Even if you go out and just buy Cooking for Dummies, and yes, there is a book for that. Trust me, you can make some phenomenal stuff. And if you just put it together, trust me, you will earn so many brownie points. It is unbelievable. Dessert will be just amazing.
Yeah, dessert will just be like that one.
It'll be quite delicious, I promise.
Like, and also,
if you make it to dessert.
And also, women do like men who clean up after themselves. It's a big thing that women look for.
I heard one therapist say this, ladies: no man has ever been shot in the back while doing dishes.
For sure
and
not.
So there you go.
Maybe for not doing dishes.
No, that's being shot in the back because they didn't do the dishes, right? They're piled up. But you know what? Doing dishes together is sexy. Don't think otherwise. You finish dinner and you go plop yourself on the couch. Oh, man. Don't even think about it.
So there's a place for everyone. I mean,
Yes,
women who make a lot of money and they're the powerhouse. I mean, they still want to be cherished.
Yes, they do.
If you want to buy the guy, tickets to Hawaii, go for it. That's not unsexy, and the guy can still be there, buying you dinner in Hawaii and opening doors for you in Hawaii. So there's a big gamut of what today is, cool and sexy and okay. And I just think, a little bit to each his own, but still I think certain dynamics in general seem to work. And as you said, men like to be respected.
Yes,
and
respect is
they
huge.
do want to be
Absolutely, it's huge.
respected. Yeah.
And remember, the little girl in her really, really wants to meet the little boy in you. So both of you have to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it will pay off. So that's as far as we're getting today, and we're going to shrink our song. And this one's entitled 7 Years by Lucas Graham, and this was by request. So I'm going to read the lyrics. It's covering a lot of ground here, and then we're going to close out with a song. Once I was 7 years old, my mom told me, go make yourself some friends or you're going to be lonely. Once I was 7 years old. It was a big, big world, but we thought we were bigger. Pushing each other to the limits, we were learning quicker. By 11, smoking herb and drinking bumming liquor. Never rich, so we were out to make that steady figure.
Well, I think early on we're taught that we better get paired up or else we're going to be lonely. Even at 7, that message is starting to go into our head. And then we go into this big, big world and, then we get kind of like a big sense of ourselves. We're older than what we're going to act older and we're going to try stuff like smoking herb, drinking, burning liquor, and, we're going to get that money rolling, just, all in preparation, right? Just to grow up.
Or to be cool or rush things.
Yeah.
Once I was 11 years old, my daddy told me, get yourself a wife or you'll be lonely. Once I was 11 years old, I always had that dream, like my daddy before me, so I started writing songs. I started writing stories. Something about that glory just always seemed to bore me, because only those I really love will ever really know me.
Well, again, Daddy's saying, get a wife, the same message, or else you're going to be lonely. So this particular person started writing songs and stories, but he was bored because he really wanted to be known. He didn't want the story. He wanted a real person to know him from the inside out.
Once I was 20 years old, my story got told. Before the morning sun, when life was lonely, once I was 20 years old. I only see my goals. I don't believe in failure because I know the smallest voices, they can make it major. I got my boys with me, at least those in favor. And if you don't meet before I leave, I hope I'll see you later.
Well, it sounds like he's a songwriter, a
Yes.
storyteller. He finally got his story told. Yep. And maybe he's still alone and he's still looking to his goals and he's still optimistic. So 20 is still pretty optimistic, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Once I was 20 years old, my story. Oh, wait, I read that. Okay. Soon I'll be 30 years old. Our songs have been sold. We've traveled around the world and we're still roaming. Soon we'll be 30 years old.
Well, successful, but still sounds
single.
Unattached.
Yep, still
right.
Single. I'm still learning about life. My woman brought children for me so I can sing them all my songs and I can tell them stories. Most of my boys are with me. Some are still out seeking glory and some I've had to leave behind. My brother, I'm still sorry.
Well, I guess he hooked up and had children, family, and so, satisfaction, and maybe had to leave some of the people behind in his life because he was now leading another path, and I don't know what has happened to his brother, maybe his
Well, it could have been a friend,
brother,
right?
friends,
Could have been a friend,
my brother,
too.
my
Yeah.
friend,
My brother
maybe
from a different
my
mother.
my songwriter buddies, yeah.
Soon I'll be 60 years old. My daddy got 61. Remember life, and then your life becomes a better one. I've made a man so happy when I wrote a letter once. I hope my children come and visit once or twice a month. Soon I'll be 60 years old. Will I think the world is cold, or will I have a lot of children who can warm me? soon I'll be 60 years old.
Well, I think the gist of it is, you're hitting 60. I guess his daddy made it to 61. And then you look at your life and you think, will my children come visit me, kind of cats in the cradle kind of
Right.
thing.
Cats in the cradle and silver spoon.
Right. And so, what did I sow? Are my children going to be around? Are they going to be visiting me, or did I blow it and
Well, again, I think it
and-
nails. You talked earlier about respect, right?
Right.
And here I am, 60. I got kids. Are they going to want me, love me, respect me?
Mm-hmm.
Once I was 7 years old, my mama told me, so go make yourself some friends or you'll be lonely. Once I was 7 years old.
So it sort of comes full circle, right? So,
Yes.
mom's telling him or her to make it happen with another human being, and then it goes full circle back to age 7, and then all the way to 60, and just the circle of life. And ultimately, we're wired to connect. We
Yes,
want
we
to
are.
be loved, and we want to love, and we want to feel safe and connected too. And so
In this couple's
healing
world.
human disconnect, right? How do we heal human disconnect? Is that we want to connect
Right,
in the most
because
profound way.
it-
It doesn't matter how old we are. It
No.
doesn't really matter. I don't care if you're 7, 20,
or 70.
or 70. It's all the same. Our desires are still the same. Love and be loved.
And the most powerful force in the world is unconditional
Unconditional
love. And so that's Lucas, 7 years old. And we're going to close out with that for this go around. Thanks so much for tuning in. You can watch us on you can watch us on YouTube.
And Andrew, thank you so much
And
for
if somebody's
calling
calling in,
And
really appreciate it.
Ron, one of our listeners, thank you so much for recommending
Requesting the
this
song. Great song.
Yes.
And you can hear us on Stitcher, iTunes, and of course we are part of the iHeart Family Radio Network. And if you want to write us or information about notes, you can just write us at info@drjudywtf.com. We have, of course, Dr. Judy Rosenberg, and I'm your host, Walt Lusk.
And download our app.
And the
if you
app
haven't.
on your iPhones is the Psychological Healing Center.
Just Psychological Healing Center.
Yeah, Psychological Healing Center.
Yeah.
Mhm. And the app for Android is soon coming. So stay tuned. Thanks a lot, everybody. God bless.